Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of Tea and Sympathy with Gillian-Baker. I'm Gillian-Baker, and today we are going to talk about my book, A Time to Kiln, the second book in the Jade Blackwell series. And I don't have a physical copy. I've given them all away, so I needed to show it to you on the screen there. And we are going to look at some behind the scenes of this book in particular, and I have some other goodies that I'm going to share with you as well as we go along. Since this is Tea and Sympathy with Gillian-Baker, I thought I would share with you what kind of tea I'm drinking today. Right now it is a spicy chai with a little bit of cream and sweetener, and it is really delicious. Share with me if you're here live, or even if you're watching the replay, leave me a comment and let me know what kind of tea you're drinking, or maybe another beverage. And also let me know, if you're here live, let me know in the comments, just shout out a hey, and be happy to see who comes today. And just to let you know, sometimes Facebook doesn't show me your comments. Sometimes it does and sometimes it doesn't. So if you're here live and I am totally ignoring your comments, just know that it's because I can't see them, and that as soon as I get off the call, off the live, I'll hop over and chat with you. So feel free to ask any questions or anything as we go along. Okay, let's get to it. So one of the biggest questions that that mystery writers get asked is, how do you come up with your murders? How do you come up with not only just all the clues and all of that sort of thing, but how do you come up with how you're going to kill somebody and who you're going to kill? So I have to confess that many, many years before I ever sat down to write the first book in the series, I had this brilliant idea, I thought, for killing someone. And yeah, I do kind of think of those things even before I penned them. I thought of those kinds of things. So at the time, in my late 20s into my mid 30s, I was a potter, and I was obsessed with throwing pots, and I just loved it. And one of the biggest tools that we used, one of the main tools that every potter has to have, which unfortunately I don't have anymore. If I do have it, it's way up in the garage in the rafters, and I didn't have time to dig for it. Who knows what else I'd find up there. So, but I can describe it to you. It is a cord, a really sharp metal cord with two little wooden pegs on the end, and they come in different lengths, and they're just called clay cutters. Really boring name. And it's almost like a piano wire. It's that, it's really thin and sharp like that. And one day when I was in the pottery studio working, I thought, gosh, that would be an amazing way to kill somebody, because you could garrote them very easily with this thing. It was really dangerous. You could cut yourself on them if you were, weren't really careful. So I don't know, that idea just kind of came out of the blue to me. And so I thought, I'm going to tuck that away. And if I ever write a murder mystery, which at the time I didn't think I ever would, I'm going to have to use that. And so in the second book, A Time to Kiln, I decided to use that. And the idea came about when at the end of Jade's first book, Blogging is Murder, she is looking for a way to jazz up her life after she solves her first murder. And So in the second book, she's like trying to get out of the office more. That was one of the things that she talked about a lot with her friend, her blogging friend, Liz, who was brought up on murder charges in the first book. She just kept saying to herself, oh, I've got to get out of the house more because, you know, I'm always in my home office and I don't see people like I want to. And I'm just out of touch with what's going on in the community. And so she decides she needs a hobby. So in this book, clearly, she decides to take up a pottery class with a recent citizen, someone who had just moved to the area of Aspen Falls, Wyoming, not long ago. And she really enjoys the class. She's not very good at throwing pottery, but she really is enjoying it and learning a lot. And so she's really excited about being able to get out and do something with her hands and be really creative because her job as an entrepreneur, online entrepreneur, isn't very creative. So anyway, I'm not going to tell you who was murdered, but someone was murdered with a clay cutter, and they were garroted from behind. And one of the reasons that a clay cutter is so much better than using a piano wire, just fun fact, one reason it's so much better is because it has those little toggles at the ends, you know, those little pegs, wooden pegs that you can wrap your fingers around, because that's what you do. You know, you wrap your fingers around those and you cut the clay off of your wheel, or slice a big chunk off of a piece of clay so that you can, you know, go and throw it or whatever. So someone is murdered using that method, and it was a lot of fun to write. And then I had to go back in and add in other juicy details because it would have kind of cut her neck, right? So there was a little bit of blood, you know. It was great fun. I'm not encouraging you to go out and kill anybody, but just saying it's a really good way to do that. So I'm going to show you the cover one more time before I shut my iPad down and show you some other things, some other fun things. Okay, so I mentioned that I was a potter for about 7 years, and I don't have a lot of my pottery left because I mostly gave it away as gifts or gave it to friends and family, or I sold it. So I don't have a whole lot left, but some of the few pieces that I do have left, I wanted to show you today. So do you remember the mug I showed you earlier? I'm going to try not to spill it on my laptop. This is one of the few remaining mugs that I have left that I threw. It's a really big one. I like big mugs. I had to show you this. I wondered if I should or not. This is the very first thing I ever threw on a pottery wheel, okay? It's just a thing, you know. We put like coins and stuff in it, you know. It's like a nice dish. Oh, thanks, Felicity. It's lovely. No, not really. You could kill somebody with this. Actually, it's so freaking heavy, and it's not very tall. I mean, there's enough clay here. I mean, it's really, really thick. So there's enough clay here that, you know, I could get it a lot taller. But this was my first attempt. I was so proud of myself that I even got it up this high. I mean, there's probably like 4 pounds of clay in this. And the goal when you're throwing pottery is to get it really thin, so it's not real heavy. So anyway, I kept this because it keeps me humble. You know, I've got these other beautiful things that I've made. And I was like, oh, my ego all, you know, boosts up when I see and I drink out of my lovely mug. And then I go and put, you know, coins in this, and I'm like, oh yeah, this is how it all started. So anyway, I had to show you the first piece, and actually I could have made that a murder weapon as well. But so here's some more things. These are just bowls that we use for every day. And they have survived. Eat, I don't know, cereal or whatever out of them. This one's kind of just a boring color. Another fun fact, there's all different types of clay that you can use. I don't know if you can see this or not, but there are speckles in the clay. And that's why a lot of the glaze that I used was just kind of just a light cover up so that you could see all the speckles in the clay. And I would go and buy that, especially once I really got into it. I would go to an outlet and buy all of my clay and get the speckled stuff. And each type of clay that you work with is a little different. So another fun fact. If you are ever excited about pottery, and if you want to know, if you're interested in doing this, it is so much fun and such lovely people. You'll meet such lovely people. I made a lot of good friends, and I even had a small pottery studio of my own for a short time. Ignore my cell phone that's ringing. And so I tend to make a lot of very practical items. So I'm really a practical person. So even though I wanted to be creative and work with my hands, I wanted some creative stuff. So I made quite a few of, and this is a kind of boring one. Again, a lot of the really gorgeous stuff went to friends and family or I sold. This is still a lamp. So you can see, I don't know, I think it's too dark to see inside. But I was using it in my office, and what you do is, here, I'm gonna move this down a little bit. You have one of those big globe light bulbs that you buy. It's just perfectly round, and it's just like really big, and that just sits right on the top of it. And so I made a lot of these and gave them away as Christmas gifts, if I remember correctly. And there's no bulb in it. Can anybody guess why there's no bulb in this right now? Felicity, you want to take a wild guess? I'll wait and see if Felicity can guess why there's no bulb in this right now, and then I'll tell you in a minute if she hasn't figured it out. Now, one of my favorite things to do was called raku, and raku is something that you actually have to use a special clay, and you throw it into a fire, and it makes all of these little crackles. I don't know if you can see the crackles. Let me get it closer. There you can see a little bit. I'm not used to holding stuff up for the camera yet. And it makes all these iridescent colors. I mean, I just think it's gorgeous. I just love that. This is one of my favorites. This is probably one that I'll keep forever because I really love it. And here's another raku piece. Now, the raku pieces are, no, Felicity, I didn't kill anybody with it, and I had to get rid of it because it was evidence. No, it was the infamous grand kitten, Jane Eyre, who she loves to knock stuff off of our tables and everything. And I know cats do that, but we've never had a cat that did that before. And she somehow, this is pretty sturdy. Somehow she knocked this over and the light bulb just shattered because that particular type of light bulb is really thin and it just shattered everywhere. So I haven't replaced it yet. So that's, but that was a great guess, Felicity. It could have been that. Yep, the next guess had to be the cat. This is another piece of raku that I did, and this one just turned out gorgeous, I think. Another piece that I'll probably always keep. You can see here how there's kind of black on there from the fire, I'll get up close. And then there's that popper, and this is, it's just a big bowl. A lot of times I'll put fruit or, something like that in it on the table, on the kitchen table. Another thing about raku is that it's not food safe. So all of these other ones, when I showed you like the bowl, you can eat out of this. It's safe. You could even put something in there and put it in the oven. It's safe to do that. But when you have raku like this, it's not food safe. So I always have to put something down on the bottom before I would put our food in there. That's another way you could kill somebody with glaze. Got me thinking again. You could give them a piece of raku pottery and not tell them that it's not food safe, and who knows what they would do with it. But it wouldn't really be a great way, because it would take a long time for them to ingest enough poison probably to do them in, and you wouldn't know when it was going to happen. So if you wanted to get rid of somebody quickly, it would be better to bash them over the head with their first piece of pottery ever. Just saying, just in case you wanted to know. So there you have it. I scrounged around the house and got all the pieces that I could find to show you. And that's how I came up with the idea for A Time to Kiln, my second book in the Jade series. And I know this is running a little long. I apologize for that. I just wanted to show you everything and have some fun with it. I've even thought, I haven't decided yet how I'm going to do this, but I've even thought about running some giveaways or something and giving away a piece of my pottery to the winner, along with a book, a signed book or something. So if you would be interested in that, if you think that would be really cool, leave a message for me in the comments, and I'll see if people think that would be a fun thing to have. An original, a Gillian-Baker original. So if you have any comments or questions, go ahead and leave them in the comments. Even if you're here on the replay, I would be happy to answer any questions that you have or answer your comments. And if you haven't read A Time to Kiln, I've put the link in the description of the live here, so you can click on that and read it for yourself and find out there's actually 2 murders in that one. And I didn't talk about the second one, so you can find out about that. And also in my email that I'm going to send out to my list, I send out an email on every Thursday, and this week I'm going to put some pictures in there of some really cool containers that I made that my mom now has. She bugged me about getting them for years and years. And so finally I decided, okay, you can have these as long as you will them back to me. They're for like, they're a canister set for your kitchen. So you've got, tea, coffee, and sugar, or sugar, flour, and something else, those kinds of sets. So I've got a picture of that that she sent me, and I'm also going to have an actual picture of one of those clay cutters that I was talking about that are so dangerous. So anyway, if you're not signed up for my weekly updates and exclusive goodies that I share, because I share a lot of stuff with those folks that I don't share with anybody else, there's a link to access that also in the minutes for the live. And until next week, this is Jacqueline, this is Gillian-Baker, and I'm happy to see that, thanks Felicity for joining me, and we will talk soon. Bye everybody.